What's up, friends? Welcome to The Beautiful Mess, where we talk about tools and tactics to improve your life. I'm your host, Paul Didis, a content creator, YouTuber, and podcaster, and super excited to have you on this episode. I'm a big fan of minimalism, and I thought we could talk a little bit about how I go about scheduling things. I'm a big fan of productivity and done a lot of research in best ways to go about your day and get stuff done. And, sometimes I feel like that can be actually a deterrent from actually getting stuff done, is just purely my enjoyment of researching stuff. But I guess like being a minimalist with your time, what does that even entail? I guess I would go into thinking about, first of all, what are your priorities in life? It's one thing to just go after something, like you're super dedicated, you're just going to go. But there's no point in climbing a wall to find out that you were attacking the wrong castle, or you were going after the wrong, goal that you had in mind, that it doesn't really meet your life, what you're passionate about, what you're excited about. And that's why it's so important for you to reevaluate every once in a while. Now's a great time. We're about midway through 2022. And, a lot of people have like the new year mindset. It's like, I'm going to plan this new year. It's going to be great. I love it. But what about mid-year? Are you still going strong on your goals? That's an important question to ask yourself. Are you being gritty with your goals? As I talked about in one of my previous episodes about Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, and the importance of being gritty about certain things and discovering your overarching passion. I just finished another book, adding to my collection of books. One of my goals, speaking of goals as being a minimalist, of 2022 is to read 40 books. And I'm happy to admit that I just finished 2 books recently. And so I finished 28 of the 40. So the 2 books that I read recently, it's one, Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jacko, Willink, and Leif, Babin. Really enjoyed that read. Highly recommend. And then the other was Things That Matter by Joshua Becker. I think I talked briefly about it in a previous episode, but now I've made it all the way through that book and highly recommend. Basically, it's like a nice refresher. A lot of this stuff is a little bit intuitive. He talks about a lot about distractions in our lives. Some distractions might surprise you, but then there's those that are more typical, like technology and how to deal with that. But I think the unique thing is the perspective that Joshua comes at these ideas, and kind of looking at how you can use these distractions and to avoid the ones that are bad, but then focus on ways to use things like technology for good to further your mission. But like, if you need to figure out what your mission is. And I think the last part of his book, he talks in depth about how to figure out what your mission is in life. And it's kind of the intersection of 3 things. It's your abilities, your passion, and your like meeting a need of others, like a world issue, things that you have a particular interest in. It's not just something that the world needs. It's like you have, like, because of either positive or negative life events in your life, you've realized that this particular issue resonates with you. And that I think is really cool. When you can find those things that you're super passionate about and you just like can get going on it. So again, highly recommend. He's another minimalist out there. So if you're looking for a minimalist voice to listen to, highly recommend Joshua Becker stuff. He's got the blog Becoming Minimalist and a couple of different books like The Minimalist Home and stuff. So yeah, those 2 books, extreme ownership. I feel like I probably should do an entire episode on it at some point. But basically, the idea is that you shouldn't, if something goes wrong in your life, you shouldn't just put the blame on somebody else. And that's, I think, a lot of, at work, if something goes wrong and you're like, oh, it's so-and-so's fault, it's not mine. But in extreme ownership, it's like, wait, no, I was in charge of this aspect, or I should take responsibility of this. And it's just addressing it in a fruitful way instead of just kind of a negative, the complainer's way, So I think that's super helpful, is having complete ownership over your life and not just letting life happen. And I think this goes back to this minimalist idea of scheduling your life. It's not just you don't want life to just happen. You want to have purpose and drive in your life, working towards those goals that are meaningful and will make a difference in the world. So let me kind of dive through kind of a little bit of my process that I've been doing. And I honestly feel like, I'll be completely honest, I'm still trying to figure out like the grit. It's like you want to figure out that overarching like passion that you have. I don't know if I've quite nailed it down, but there are certain things that I have a joy for, or an enjoyment. One of these things is this podcast. But at the beginning of 2022, or slightly before it, I came up with 4 goals that I was going to work towards. And those 4 goals I've been working towards, some better than others, I'll happily admit. But number 1 was getting an episode published every single week. So at the end of 2022, my hope is to have 52 episodes of The Beautiful Mess. And then number 2 is to read 40 books, which I've told you about. And then number 3 is to go to CrossFit 3 times a week. Sometimes I'm better at that than others. And then number 4 is to publish a YouTube video. I kind of gave myself a little bit of a runway in the beginning of the year, so I didn't really. I had it broken down by quarter, and I had like 0 videos to kind of give myself time to get this podcast off the ground. And so, but then since then, should have published about 11 videos last quarter. We're just wrapping up quarter 2 now, and I didn't get them done. And so I'm going to tell you about some of the things that I'm hoping to do to be able to get a little bit, at least get things going with the YouTube channel. So my goal for quarter 3, I'm probably going to have to adjust it a little bit, but I hope the goal is to release 12 YouTube videos. Again, I don't know if that's going to be exactly 12. We'll see. So those are the goals. And then what I do on a weekly basis, and I've been getting into bullet journaling. Spencer Pugh, my buddy of mine, I think I'll partially blame him for this, a good blaming. I don't know, I'll take ownership of it, like I was saying. But Spencer Pugh is a big Bujo bullet journaling. It's like a whole community. When he first said Bujo, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it's Bujo, Bujo, however you want to say it. But bullet journaling, where basically instead of having like a regular planner, it's kind of like a wild west of planning. You can do whatever you want in it. And at first I was super intimidated by the idea of Bujo bullet journaling, because I was like, as like kind of the perfectionist in me, it's like, how am I going to like get this set up just right? And it's going to take too much time. And what I realized was like a good minimalist, less but better, just simplify, don't make things complicated. So I've come up with some kind of things that I've used that seem to be working pretty effectively so far. So maybe at some point I'll share more details on that. but I like to break down those. So I have that year-long goal, and then I break that down into quarters, and then I break that down even further on a week-to-week basis, where I try to make it very particular. So it's easy for the 3 times a week with CrossFit. So I just write down 3 times a week, go to CrossFit, or might write down the habit that's going to help me get to CrossFit. So put out my shoes, the food, or my clothes the night before so that I'm ready to go. And this idea comes from Atomic Habits, this idea of making things easy to do, make it rewardable, visible, and there's another one. Can't think of it right now. But so that's how you can build good habits, is like make it ridiculously easy and just very, achievable. And that really helped me getting to the gym more often. And then, 13 episodes I've been doing pretty well, both quarter 1 and quarter 2. This is number 13 for quarter 2. So wrapping up quarter 2 just nicely. So hopefully quarter 3 will go well for that. That's kind of just a look into my life. And another method, kind of another person, especially if you're interested in bullet journaling or just this concept, that I recommend is Matt Ragland. He's got a YouTube channel and some helpful content on there, but he has this gap method. And basically you're going to list out maybe 1 to 2 or 3 possibly goals that you have for the week. And so then what you do with those 3 goals, or 2, 1 goal, whatever it is that you're going to write down actions for each of those goals. And that way you're not guessing. There's no guesswork in this. Like, that's the worst, is when you're not exactly sure. I've done this myself. It's like, oh, that just seems like such a big thing. Like, I don't have time tonight. Break it down, make it like simple as you need to be. And so you break down the actions, and then this is probably the gem of it all, is your protections, what you need to protect in order to get stuff done. And this can be anything from setting aside time to doing particular things to make sure that you're not going to, get distracted. Or one thing I did, and I'll kind of share a little bit of how I broke down like one of the goals that I had for the week, but is manage your energy. And this is something that Matt Diavella talks on his YouTube channel. It's like, it's more important, instead of like necessarily like just managing your time, you have to manage your energy, because that is like one of the important things. Like, if you have a very important task that you want to complete, but then like you get to the end of the day and you need to get it done later, and you're just like wiped out because you just been going. You could end up, kind of crashing in the end. So be sure to make it so that you have the energy and you're excited to do that thing, instead of like, I'm dead. And let me kind of break down one of the gap like methods. So, for example, I have publish TBM 31. So this is this episode. So this is very relevant to this episode. So I list out the action steps. So it's something simple as 1, plan out the topic. 2, I wrote down, consider getting guests. There are no guests today, so sorry. Maybe next episode, we'll see. Number 3, record the episode. Number 4, edit episode. Number 5, publish to Anchor, YouTube, Facebook. And then number 6, promote the episode. And then the other aspect that I have is the protect. These are the times that I'm going to protect. So I say like Monday from 8 to 10, I'm going to protect that time to record this episode. And then the next day, Tuesday from 8 to 10, I'm going to protect that time so that I can edit it and get it out where I need to get it. And then the biggest thing is for this one, I said, I'm going to manage my energy so that I have the energy that I need to get it done. because I knew that oftentimes, like when it comes to recording this, sometimes I would be like, oh man, I know I got to get an episode out, but I'm just like, I'm kind of wiped. I'm kind of wiped, but I'm like, no, I'm going to like make this a highlight of the day. I'm going to be like, I'm pumped, and I'm pumped to be here with you. So thank you for being with me. So what goals do you have for Q3? What goals do you have to Q3? If you haven't thought about it yet, highly recommend just like, first of all, if you haven't made goals for the entire year, don't worry. You can just start small, maybe start with just this quarter. Write out all the things that you want to accomplish, and then just pick like maybe max 4. Be the minimalist. Determine like what it is that's going to move you along. Because, I think a bad thing is when you pick too many things and all of a sudden you're trying to like drink a lot of water, you're trying to work out, you're trying to, go write a book. It's just like way too much. You have to focus your time and energy, especially if these are like extra projects outside of work. You got to be intentional about the time, because as a father myself, it's like your time is super limited. And so it's like, I've got to be super focused during this time to be able to like get it done. But I enjoy it. So it's a good thing. So yeah, I would suggest just writing out a bunch of stuff and then select the ones that really resonate. And this is an interesting thing that I think Warren Buffett talks about, is that and this is probably like more, I would say life goals kind of thing, but I think you could apply it on a smaller, more micro level, like quarter goals. But he's like, write out like 20, 25 goals that you have, and then write down like the top 5. And then on another list, write down the other ones that you didn't select. And that's your avoidance list. That's a list of like stuff that you're going to avoid so that you can focus your attention, your energy on the tasks that really, really matter to you and aren't going to distract you from achieving the most important goals that you have. So yeah, that's super important. And again, like just attach it to your overarching like mission in life. Like, what is it that resonates with you? How are you going to make a difference in the world at the end of your life? What are you going to be happy that you spent all your time doing? Like, so that you don't end up at the end of your life and realize, I wasted all my time playing video games, or who knows? I mean, I don't want to make video games always the bad guy, but it can be, good break now and then. But yeah, I think that's important. And then make a list of the obstacles that you might encounter when you're going to accomplish these goals. So I did that for this week. I kind of wrote out some of the things that might get in my way of accomplishing some of the goals that I wrote for this week. So to overcome the roadblocks. So these are roadblocks that I might encounter this week. So I'm being aware of them so I can overcome them. But it's not enough to write out your obstacles or roadblocks. You have to write out a concrete way that you're going to address it. So one thing that I'm trying to overcome is perfectionism. This idea that things have to be the best that they need to be. And instead, I'm going to focus on putting in my best effort with the time that's given to me. And then the other one, just being aware of my phone usage, so that here's one of the things that I like to say. It's like, I don't mind using my phone as long as it aligns with my values. Let me say that again. I don't mind using my phone. It's not like one of those things that I'm like trying to reduce it down to 2 minutes a day, whatever. If using the phone, it's a tool of technology that's amazing. It's just like a computer in your pocket. Don't get me wrong, but it's how you use it with your time. Be a minimalist and make sure that those things align with your values. So that's one thing that I'm going to be aware of. And so I'm going to use the app that I talked about last time, 1sec and Screen Zen as needed to reduce it. I took it off for a little bit. I might put it back on just to make sure that it was super helpful. I'm telling you, like, it reduced my screen usage drastically. So consider that for yourself if that's something you want. And then another thing is like wishful thinking, because, we all write down to-do lists and, all these things that we want to get done. And my goal is that on those most important tasks that I have in mind, kind of like the four goals, going back to those, like the ones that I broke down, like I was telling you, like I sometimes just can't get to that YouTube video. So what I'm going to do to try to overcome that is I'm going to try to schedule in action and the location of those tasks, and kind of, use the atomic habits to help make that a reality. Because what they say is when you attach a location and a time to getting something done, you have a much higher probability of actually getting it done. So I highly recommend, if there's something that you really want to accomplish in a week, set aside, protect that time, and use the gap method so that you know that you'll at least spend some time working on that, and specify where you're going to work on that. Are you going to be in, a special room? Because it's so true that you associate a room or a time with doing certain things, especially if you can build a habit around those important things. So yeah, that's kind of how, as a minimalist, I like to schedule kind of the bigger picture, the smaller picture, and then the day-to-day. And on the day-to-day, just so you're aware, what I've been doing recently on my bullet journaling is typically I have a daily highlight. And this is like the one thing that, like, if I get this one thing, that's a highlight of the day. And then I have a might-do list of things that would be nice to get done. But honestly, if it doesn't get done, it's not the end of the world. So that's what I would recommend. If you're looking for something to try, just try that. I've enjoyed doing that. I've also been keeping track of my typing speeds on my Bujo bullet journal, trying to get that up as high as I can. So yeah. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, friends. Again, this is a beautiful mess. If you want to join the messy fam, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff wherever you like to listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, most of those podcast platforms. You can find us. So we'd love to connect to you. And if you want to message me, feel free to do so. That's at Paul Dittus at pretty much any social media place that you can think of. I would love to hear from you. Yeah. Until next time, my friends, stay messy.